Monday. It's a day off for Paul, though not entirely kosher. He's phoned in sick. He feels fine, but he's got to get the table home. The first 2 tries have resulted in failure by both him and a delivery driver, who now resides in a vegetative state at the taxpayer's pleasure. The radio is playing Kiss FM. Paul hasn't phoned in sick since he was 16. Paul, through the pressure of bills, children and advertising, has developed into a law-abiding citizen with a taste for finger-pointing politics. Every evening after dinner, while Amy watches the news, he spends his time on Facebook, not catching up with friends but telling people off for their lazy views on poverty or crime. Paul feels the will of the people against the metropolitan liberal elite. Paul has built an ivory enclosure so high he has no way of getting out. The table must take priority though. If he doesn't do this now, he's never going to relieve the pressure he's been feeling. The delivery times he's been given are par for the course vague. He's had a text and an email telling him that he should receive the table sometime between 11 AM and 4 PM. He's not going to leave this third attempt to the forces of being in a room where you can't hear the door, or not seeing the van coming but seeing the delivery driver not even knock. He's not had any kind of diuretic. He's in control of his body today, but the caffeine withdrawal headache is already beginning to shit in his cranial bed. His lower back is sore from getting the shakes whenever he thinks about what he's going to be able to do with this table, this surface to a new kind of pleasure. He's by the front room bay window. He's sitting on a stool taken from the breakfast bar in the kitchen. He's poised, and his only luxury, the radio. In common with most residential roads in this part of the world, both sides of the street are lined with some carefully and some not so carefully parked cars. Viewing this space during the day has been a pleasure. He can see that this used to be a road for driving on. At some point in the past, cars would have passed each other, not slowing down or pulling into a gap. This would have been a medium of progress, a seamless carriageway. Paul, like his 15-year-old version of himself bunking off school, is looking out for the vehicles his colleagues drive. He knows a little about cars, but most of his company car park holds the same sort of models, so that won't help him here. Paul does, however, have a head for numbers. Unknown to him, he has a memory for figures and sequences that will put him in the upper 0.00005% of the UK population. With no conscious effort, Paul has memorised all of the number plates in the company car park. He also knows which cars are assigned to which employees, and he has drawn up a mental threat list with 14 number plates to look out for. If he sees any one of them come into view from either end of the street, he'll be best moving away from the window. The absolute worst thing that could happen would be for one of those plates to make an appearance while he was receiving the delivery. Paul does not have a contingency for this. The major danger zone for this possible event would be between 1 and 2 PM. 2 of the 14 possible plates could come through his street between these times. Both of the people driving those cars live nearby, with a total round trip time of between 25 and 34 minutes. He's almost through this danger zone, but with 3 minutes to go, he sees to his far left a Mercedes Sprinter box van nose into his road. 3 fucking minutes, he thinks. There's no way one of my colleagues would come past. They would be either late or wait, what if one of those people decides to take a later lunch hour? What if they went back for a family emergency or a broken pipe? The van is getting closer to his house. It appears to have a car behind it, someone who looks like they are in a hurry, a black Audi A4. He can't make out the number plate. He can see the last few letters and it checks out. It's one of the 2. There's still an outside possibility though. The van comes to a halt, hazards on. The driver has decided to stop right next to Paul's car. He is blocking the street and everyone, via the car behind's horn, is going to know about it. He'll have to go upstairs to make sure that the car is his colleague's. It doesn't matter, he realises. If the van driver knocks and he's not in, then it looks bad. The colleague knows where he lives. The dance would be over. His car is parked outside and his explanation to HR involved beds and toilets and not being able to move far from either. He would have to answer the door, but then he wouldn't because he's bed and toilet bound, right? So he can't answer. That's it. He can't answer. But the damage has been done, right? The van is here, it's delivering furniture, his wife works on the floor below, his colleague knows it's not somebody else taking a delivery. He could move. He could take the delivery, deny it ever happened, get inside the computer system, delete the record of my address, move quickly, get it done in a day or two, just rush by one of those new build houses up near the M5, cheap but spacious. He could quit his job. He hates the coffee machine at work anyway. He'd go somewhere where the coffee is better. He could do sales for a car company, have a pretty receptionist bring him good coffee, have a flash company car, get the best models as demonstrators. Bit of a pay cut, but he'd work his way up, get to know how things work, maybe even move into the management structure. He'd buy a bigger house then. The van driver is knocking at the door, pushing the doorbell. His colleague is still beeping, her window down. Looks like she's about to get out of the car. This is bad. She's shouting something. Perhaps she's in such a hurry that she'll not realise where she is. She only knows through her job where he lives. Perhaps she'll forget. She's not lazy though. Paul knows this. He knows her to be diligent and strong. The bell is ringing and the door is being knocked on, and Paul has moved to just behind the curtain. He should answer the door. The van being there in the first place is an admission of guilt. He'll just claim that they had the wrong address. That'll get him out of it. Besides, what are they going to do? The van driver has stopped knocking. Paul's colleague is still shouting something out of her window. Ignoring all, the van driver is getting into the cab of his vehicle. He's shut the hazards off. Paul cannot move. He watches the van move off from behind the curtain. As his colleague is closing her window, she happens to glance in Paul's direction. They make eye contact. She hesitates with engaging first gear. He feels his face pop into an open-mouthed smile. Paul almost pulls his shoulder as his arm shoots into a wave. Paul is unsure whether he has control over his body. His colleague waves back. She doesn't know who Paul is.